$500,000 worth of machine, 4 months in the making. Carrington company Marlin Truck Bodies beat off national competition to win this contract. It's the Rolls-Royce of refuelers, incorporating the latest hydraulic and electric systems. It carries on board 3,000 litres of water, 12,000 litres of diesel fuel, 3,000 litres of oil and 500 litres of grease. Designers also had to make it environmentally friendly, so
any spillage that may come out of the tanks, the breather system of the tanks or out of the hose reel compartments was all contained and placed back in a holding tank in the foot of the tank.
If you can officially launch a truck, Newcastle Lord Mayor John McNaughton did so this morning. This new addition to the Warkworth Mining Limited fleet goes into service next week, prowling a Warkworth site near Singleton. Anthony Griffiths, NBN News.
Eastside and South Melbourne Saints merged to form the Big M Magic, and so far this year they have won 6 and lost 2, last weekend going down to Sydney. For the Falcons, their season has been on the rails at home with a 3-1 record, while it is the reverse away. The home court advantage should help the Falcons, although they were in more strife than Ned Kelly at one stage against the Cats last weekend, before rallying to the cause and winning by 18. Some good matchups will highlight the game. Magic's Bruce Bolden, a real trump card for the Southerners, and Newcastle's Terry Dozier will have to reproduce his sensational form of a week ago to restrict Bolden. John Dorge is another who will pose a threat to the locals, with the Falcons getting a good look at the Giants centre when he suited up for the Boomers on Monday night. A win for the Falcons will see them cement a place in the top 8 with a game in hand.
The 420 pupils have occupied the school only since the beginning of the year, and while the new buildings are first class, the surroundings are in need of a bit of prettying up. Representatives of each class helped plant dozens of wattle trees, and the significance of the event was not lost on the youngsters.
To help save our world, so that people can come in and have a better life. I think that World Environment Day is about everybody caring for the world and picking up papers and all of that sort of stuff.
Meanwhile, at the Shortland Wetlands Centre, Education Projects Manager Chris Prieto was putting the finishing touches to the Tree of Life. The idea was to mount a simple emblem for World Environment Day, using few resources but carrying an important message. The result, 6,000 hand cutouts from 40 schools stapled to 6 simple ribbons hanging from ceiling to floor.
The Tree of Life has been put together to give hunter children a chance to state their care about the environment and to send a message to our world leaders that they would like our world leaders to have as much care for the environment as they do.
Again involving school children, outside, pupils from the Shortland School were putting in a big effort to show their concern for the surroundings. They all volunteered to scour the Wetland Centre grounds, pulling out the troublesome fireweed which has sprouted in recent months. A simple task, but an example of how, when we all pull together, big strides can be made.
It's very important for people who are actively engaged in the environmental issue, but it also gives people a chance who aren't always out there in the environment, their chance to have a look and see what they can do to help the environment and what they can do and how they can help.
Although, there's the general thrust is towards very loud music, I think there's going to be an environmental push, if you like, which will connect very directly with people wanting music that is connected acoustically and dynamically with the physical environment, i.e. peace and quiet.
Sculptor Perry Schaefer spent the day preparing a Rocky display for his latest exhibition, which opens tonight at the Armidale Art Museum. He believes the environment plays a large role in art.
As if you think of art or the environment as being something that you see on the weekends, it probably doesn't have a role to play, or not to any great extent, in those sorts of circumstances. But if you think of the environment as being the things that people are moving through every day of their life, then I think it has a very large role.
With the long weekend a perfect excuse to work on the house, this year's home improvement show is offering plenty of handyman tips, as well as that little bit extra. The old favourites are making a reappearance, giving the budding home builder or owner the chance to come out of the closet with their creativity.
There are lots of very novel kinds of products, but I think the serious ones, kitchens, bathrooms, and maybe the typhoon-proof house which is being exported to New Caledonia, that the steel frame of that is here, and I think people will be interested in that.
Under one roof, the customer can go from the drawing board to the finishing touches with the assistance of professionals. And for someone who wants to combine their driving with their driving, a Swedish-designed collapsible golf box, offering the swinger a rooftop storage unit for the clubs. The show is open all over the long weekend at the Elders Pastoral Building at Wickham. It's the fourth show held there, and organisers are expecting big things.
I think there's something for everybody here, and it's really for the serious home improver, someone who's looking for a way to improve their own home, to give it added value.
This is the result of a lot of hard work, not just in the classroom, but out in the field as well. 123 students graduated in courses ranging from advanced agriculture to dairying, ducks at the school and fisher from Kincumber. The last few years haven't been the brightest for the man and woman on the land, with drought and low commodity prices. But with their qualifications, these students are almost guaranteed a career. 95% of last year's crop have found work. Still on education, and at the Curry campus of the Hunter Institute of Technology, 9 students have begun a traineeship in viticulture, mixing 13 weeks of study with a year of work in the vineyards. Studying mechanical courses through to planting vines and identifying soils. It's called an investment in the future, maintaining the Hunter's reputation as a leading wine centre. Corrine Jerd had made the trip to the northwest to spread the word of the Wilderness Society, attempting to inform people that they too should be trying to protect what wilderness is left.
I think what we're seeing now, particularly with the Earth Summit happening internationally, is that when we think globally, wilderness is one of the most underrepresented and the most threatened ecosystems in the world.
She sees the logging debate very differently to the timber industry, stating that only 5% of forests remain untouched.
We have got to make sure that what precious little we have left is actually protected.
Misinformation seems to be the main problem surrounding the logging debate, according to Ms Jerd, as she is calling for the community to become more educated.
That's when debate occurs rather than simply mudslinging.
The Society is still fighting the federal government to stop the export of wood chips, believing there are other solutions to the conflict.
I've got all of my fingers crossed, and with the I'll be sitting on the oars of my legs.
More than 400 people from New South Wales, Queensland and South Australia took part in the 16th annual State Square Dance Convention at Lismore City Hall.
Whispering Jack was a celebrity guest at the final day of the Tamworth Court. Although he was competing in a section strictly reserved for novice identities, the crowd was clearly curious to see if his talents extended from rock to riding. John was obviously wondering the same thing. On a horse borrowed from organisers and a hat no doubt borrowed from Molly Meldrum, he certainly looked the part, and judging by the crowd response, the show was a hit. There's a serious side to the appearance. John Farnham is also promoting the World Youth Quarter Horse event to be hosted by Tamworth in August.
Armidale is home to Olympic middle distance athlete Sean Crichton, and it's just possible that his fine performances are inspiring juniors from all over the north to have a crack at cross-country championships.
Well, we seem to be blessed with middle distance and long distance runners, and we think we've got some pretty good runners, and not only from here but Tamworth, Gunnedah, all around the northern areas.
Today's titles were for under-8s right through to the Open Division over various distances. And in the kids who just have a ball, Samantha Galletley of Armidale was successful, as was local lad Mark George in the under-8 boys.
$90,000 has recently been spent upgrading the stage facilities in Armidale's Town Hall.
We've included a new grid in the system, winched lighting bars, new circuitry throughout the entire auditorium and also on the stage area.
Mayor Rosemary Leach says the new facilities are much needed.
Armidale's now got a hall that will take most productions. We're very proud of the improvements, and of course it'll mean income for the city because we can now rent out the town hall for all sorts of professional plays and other performances.
The next stage of the redevelopment will involve the upgrading of the dressing rooms.
It really was a place to block the ears and put on the sunnies, as utes, sedans and rails hurtled down the quarter mile in under 6 seconds. For Ben Gatt in the Big Falcon, 5.64 seconds or 126 miles an hour. In between races and flameouts, the action bounced along, sending the pulse rate soaring. Back to the action, and Wayne Riley in the rail prevailed. Then it was tomato farmer Victor Bray who turned up the heat in a cloud of smoke. And then went into orbit with a run of 5.6 seconds. The State of Origin drag series continued late this afternoon.
Number 2 seed Marcia Zen from the Gold Coast went into the final with a good chance of taking the tournament. She downed 1991 title holder Jackie Budden in the semi 6-3, 3-6, 9-7 to reach the final. But opponent number 1 seed Julie Imber had other ideas. Imber took the first set 6-4, but in the second, Sen staged a comeback. Showing her semi-final form, she took the set 6-3, setting the stage for a thrilling third set. Imber prevailed in the third, a hard-fought 6-4, giving her the match and the tournament.
The driver of Prime Mover, Gary Cosson, was taken to hospital this afternoon when he parted company with his boat during the running of the Northern Districts Championships. Rough water near the Fig Tree turn may have been a contributing factor in the accident. Prime Mover was towed but sank just short of the boat ramp and delayed racing for some time. Latimer Lodge, a thunderboat from the St George Motorboat Club in Sydney and driven by Bruce Ringer from Queensland, provided a spectacular sight on Lake Macquarie. The rooster tail shooting skyward, but Bruce had one big problem on the tight circuit. How do you turn this big son of a boat? With great difficulty, but in a straight line, it was awesome. Two major races today, the Northern Districts Championship taken out by Magic from Prime Mover and BP. In the Alan Hatherell Memorial Point Score Championship, it was fine print from Wheeler Motors and Latimer Lodge. Teams from Newcastle, Macquarie, Hunter, Coffs Harbour, Manning to Hastings, North West and New England took part in the round-robin under-11 soccer tournament at Adamstown, and the result wasn't known until the last game. Hunter and Macquarie had played a 1-1 draw in this fixture this morning to set up a classic finish. And in the final round, Macquarie only had to have a draw to win the title, but they lost 2-1, giving the Northern New South Wales Championship to Hunter. At Raymond Terrace, junior squash players from right throughout New South Wales battled out 4 age divisions in the 3rd AV Jennings Championship. In the under-13 boys, Jared James was successful, as was Stuart Ockerley, Daniel Kowalski and Adam Mikulev in the 15s, 17s and 19s respectively. In the 13 girls, Kelly Townsend of Sydney was the winner. Delaney Saxby of Grafton took out the 15s, while Joanne Armstrong became the 17 years girls champion.
The North Coast rivers from the Manning to the Nambucca specialise in the highly prized but slow-growing Sydney rock oyster. However, in recent years, the larger and quick-growing Pacific oyster has been found in varying quantities throughout the area and can now be legally grown in the open waters of Port Stephens. In an effort to stop its spread, the government instituted a temporary ban on transfers of young oysters, which were often sent north from Port Stephens for fattening. Natural Resources Minister Causley says the moratorium on movements will be lifted now a more stringent inspection system is in place. However, the oyster farmers now fear the monitoring scheme goes too far, with spokesman Peter Clift describing it as bureaucracy gone mad and calling for urgent consultation between the government and the industry. Mr Clift says low Fisheries Department staffing levels will mean delays, and waiting for inspections to be carried out on all stock movements north or south will bring the industry to a standstill. On the matter of the proliferation of the Pacific oyster, farmers say natural spat migration is more likely to spread the rogue mollusk than commercial transplanting.
I believe we face a far greater threat from Pacific oysters by movement on tidal drift up and down the coast of New South Wales, and that situation remains a problem while ever Pacific oysters are allowed legally to be grown in Port Stephens. It's acting as a constant source of wild stock to feed into the rest of the estuaries.
The people of Barnbar haven't held a goat race before. They've seen plenty at neighbouring towns and decided it would make a fun day for the population of about 40 residents. But scenes of the race provoked an outcry among television viewers, many of whom called the RSPCA and NBN to complain. Senior vet at the Newcastle RSPCA shelter, Gail Melhuish, says the incident will be investigated.
It certainly will instigate some investigation into what sort of rules and regulations are going to be applied to them as far as age of the animals involved, the size of the jockeys or whatever you'd like to call those people.
The RSPCA admits it was unaware that goat racing even existed until it received the complaints. They say their concerns are not to victimise the people of Barnbar, only to ensure that the animals are not being mistreated.
We're there for the goats side of things, not to single out these people as a group.
But could this be the end of goat racing as we know it?
It's really just a matter of trying to prevent any injuries occurring to the animals and to make sure that as far as entertainment value goes, it's not at the expense of the animals.
The creek 4 kilometres southwest of Morisset off the F3 freeway was flooded with the sump oil. It's thought a tanker pulled up beside the road and poured up to 15,000 litres of the waste down the embankment. Today, RTA workers dammed the spill before the damage went too far. Authorities are being frustrated by a series of dumpings in this area. Just 3 weeks ago, 20,000 litres of oil were dumped in a gully near Kurrambong. As yet, no culprit has been found.
It's a case of you have to be in the right place at the right time, and we've got very limited staff to police the whole area.
The Environment Protection Authority has called for help from anyone who may have seen the latest dumper. A tanker on the site, probably Sunday or Monday, it would have taken about 20 minutes to offload his cargo. Late this afternoon, the RTA confirmed 2 other dumping sites have been found nearby. Cleanaway does have a treatment centre for waste oil in Wallsend, the dumper opting not to use it, risking a $1 million fine and choking the environment. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
The Corinna Oaks residential centre at Kurrambong, west of Lake Macquarie, is home to 160 developmentally disabled men and women. 37-year-old Shirley Florence Prees had been at the centre for a little over a year, although she'd been at other institutions for most of her life. Her naked body was found in a bath by one of the residents yesterday morning. A post-mortem that afternoon found she had been strangled. Police say their inquiries will include numerous interviews with residents.
With some of their disabilities, we're taking our time to interview them, encouraging them to whatever information they can give us. Obviously there are difficulties, but I think a period of time we can get over that.
It's believed the victim had a number of bruises resulting from a fight some days earlier. Despite the incident, the owner of the residential centre says he sees no need to review supervision arrangements.
I don't think so. I think it's going along very, very well. It's, as I said before, and I'll say it again, it's an unfortunate incident. And I hope it never, ever happens again. And